Coach is going to speak.
Words of wisdom.
Yes. Well, first of all, I would like to thank the people that made all of this possible. And so let's have a round of applause for the dining services staff. Next, I would like to thank the beer group of the pub committee, because this was their idea way back in October. And then they took that to the pub committee, and the pub committee took it to dining services. So I'd like to thank those members of the beer group.
That's inspiring. That's good stuff.
I'd also like to do a little commercial here. If you would like to help to plan future events like this in the pub committee is looking for additional members. And if you would like to become a member of the pub committee, please contact Jim Hastings. Got it right. Got it right. Also, if you would like to plan beer tastings or wine tastings or beer dinners like we had last night in fine dining, or wine dinners like we've had in the past, the beer group and the wine group are also looking for new members. So if you would like to join the beer group or the wine group, see me. Now, last of all, I'd like to thank Bucky Waters for agreeing to speak today. And with that, I'm going to turn it over. Here's Bucky.
Oh my, thanks for coming. First I want to introduce my bride of 66 years. She's very popular, and I know that. Can we get the microphone to her for a quick comment? Would you like to welcome these people on?
It could be dangerous.
It could be dangerous. I just, this is wonderful, and we're so thankful for this opportunity to do it. A lot of people, I'm sure many of you who have had many years with your spouse and loved one, and you've been asked, what's the success in carrying on that long, 66 years? And a long time ago, I used to say, he just won't die. But since we're close to that time, I don't say that anymore.
20 years.
All I say is, we're both in love with the same man.
Well, thank you. I think I start the afternoon off 0-2. But we do appreciate your coming. With the end of that game, this really could have been something. First of all, I want to congratulate North Carolina on their performance coming into Cameron last Saturday. It was one of the most impressive performances in a hostile environment that I had ever seen. When I went to church on Sunday, I didn't feel very good. But anyway, I said, if I don't go, they're going to say he didn't show up. So I went and I wore a bright red jersey. And I walked into our Sunday school class and I said, congratulations on an absolutely great performance. And I said, and in recognition of that, I came as a bullseye today, so go ahead, take your shots. And they did. Oh, one bit of good news before I go forward. It was just announced yesterday that Duke signed the best high school player in the country, a 6'6" player from Florida prep school. So Shire's doing a very good job of recruiting coming into his new position. I saw a similar performance and did the game on television. It was at Syracuse. They were closing Manley Fieldhouse, which for the Syracuse fans know that was sacred ground. And so they were closing it because they were opening this huge new stadium, which was indoor, where they play now, 23,000 people. And the team that was closing it was Georgetown, the Hoyas, and a guy named John Thompson, who had a charisma bypass. He was one of the meanest monkeys on the bench, talking, and his teams were the bad guys. Anyway, we're all pumped up there. Syracuse is pumped up about like Duke was Saturday for Mike's final game there. Anyway, the Hoyas took him to the woodshed. We're ready for the post game. We're waiting. Finally, the door goes boom, and it's John Thompson, 6'10", 250 pounds. He comes in. He doesn't even say. He looks around. He said, "I just came to announce that Manley Fieldhouse is officially closed." And he turned around and walked out. He didn't have many fans in there. I want to say this. This business now of the handshake at the end of the game, which has become controversial, with the Michigan coach punching the assistant coach from another school. I hope they maintain that tradition. I mean, it's a game, all right? And as intense as we are on the court, to be able to come back at the end of the game, look your opponent in the eye, and shake his hand, that's part of growing up. That's part of maturity. And I don't think the pros should do it. I don't think that, but I would hate to see, because of a few incidents that occurred, that they do away with that. Now, I had 3 special handshakes, post-game handshakes, during my coaching career. The first one was with my Vic Bubas, who recruited me to NC State and recruited me to Duke as a freshman coach. And then we played my first year at West Virginia. I'm 29 years old, and I'm the head coach at West Virginia, and I got the first integrated team. And we're playing Duke #1 and undefeated in February in Charleston, West Virginia. Don't ask me how we did it. We beat them. So I go up at the end of the game, and this man is God to me. He's everything. And I was speechless. A guy from Camden, New Jersey, speechless. I had lockjaw. And I just shook my hand out, put his hand on me, said, "That's a great game. Great game, kid." That was one. The second one was Jack McCluskey was my high school coach. If you know anything about Jack McCluskey, he was one of the toughest, meanest guys. He kept grabbing me by the shirt when I was in high school, and he said, "You're not going over the bridge." Over the bridge meant Villanova, St. Joe, Temple, and a lot of the good athletes in South Jersey just went into Philly, just stumbled into Philly. He said, all those guys, they go to Temple, Villanova, St. Joe, and they come back over the bridge, and for the rest of their life, they stand on the same diner corner, and they wear their Villanova, St. Joe, Temple. You're not doing that. You're getting out of here. So anyway, I end up at North Carolina State. So now I'm coaching at Duke, and he's coaching at Wake Forest. And I mean, I'm still afraid of this guy. So at the end, we played 8 times. I beat him 6 times. I think 5 points separated 3 of the games. They were those guys. Well, those handshakes were unique because they were brief and firm and silent. He didn't say a word, and he was gone. And then I had one with Dean Smith. Again, my first year at West Virginia, we come to Raleigh, and they were trying to start the Dixie Classic up. They were still mourning for that great event, and this was a precursor. They had another team for the West Coast, I don't remember now. But it wasn't a tournament. We played State one night, and we played Carolina. Now this Carolina team, what we call Miller and Lewis, they went to the Final Four. They were really good. Anyway, we were supposed to beat NC State, and we didn't do it, and that's another story. But now we're playing Carolina, and we win the game. And here again, here's Dean Smith coming at me. What do you say? Jersey kid says, "Gotcha." No. Again, and he didn't let me talk. He shook my hand, pulled me up to him, got up in my ear, and he said, "Don't think this is a welcome home present." Which I thought was a classic. And I know that people in the stands said, "Look at that. What a nice guy Dean Smith is. He knew the kid was uncomfortable, and he made him feel at home. So I've had my share. Also, just a few weeks ago, we had the 50th anniversary. We recognized that we named Cameron Indoor Stadium, and I happened to be the coach the night we did it, 1972. It used to be Duke Indoor Stadium, and they wanted to name it for Mr. Cameron, who was an incredible man. Football, basketball, he did it all, and he was a man's man. He looked you in the eye, and he brought me to Duke twice. So here I am, I'm coaching Duke. We're naming the building this night. Big, all kinds of speeches and everything, but I got to play North Carolina. They're going to the Final Four with this team. McAdoo, etc., etc. And so anyway, we go to the last second. We win on the last second shot. A guy named Robbie West hits a shot. And all I could think of, for the last 50 years, if they had beaten us that night, every time Carolina was coming over to play at Cameron, they would have said, "Where? Oh, Cameron, we opened that place, didn't we?" Oh, yeah. So fortunately, we were able to win on the last second shot. How many want to see Duke and Carolina play again?
Yeah.
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 Well,
Maybe sooner than you think.
if they do, they're playing in Brooklyn. Everybody, Brooklyn. Brooklyn better have a chin strap on tight, because if those two play again, and I hope they do, that Brooklyn's going to get an education on tough. I can't believe that the ACC tournament game is being played up in New York, but that's another story. I also feel very strongly that the Duke, that game, Carolina's performance in there it was numbing to me, because I've never seen an arena more hostile than it was. And for those kids that come in there, they just were fearless. It was like, go ahead, yeah, go scream your lungs out, Cameron Crazies, bring it on. And they held up, and it was really very impressive. The other, I wanted to, there are funny parts in coaching. It's not all a war. When I was, I was doing a TV game, and I jumped up right before the half, and I had these Sansa slacks on, and they ripped from the bottom of my fly all the way up the back. It was drafty, and so it was right before the half. So my assistants don't know what happened. I turned to him and I said, "Get behind me. We're going to be a Prussian drill team marching out of here. Get close, get close." They had no idea what I was talking about. So we got to the locker room and closed the door, and I took my slacks off and I threw them at the trainer. I said, "Fix them." And he's looking at me. He said, I'm a trainer. You know, this is a total. Anyway, he's over there putting pins in them, and he said, "Now you jump in the second half with these big pins I'm putting in here. It could really be exciting." So now the players have no idea what has happened, and I'm over talking to the assistants, and they're getting their cokes in there and ready for the last minute talk from the coach. So finally I walk around, cufflinks, tie, no slacks, knee socks, and the kids are at the table, and they look up, and they see these legs, and they're looking, and they start to get. And so I said, "What's the matter? Didn't you ever see a good-looking pair of legs before?" And then that loosened it up a little. And then right before the half, the way it happens, with 5 minutes to go for the second half, the guy from the scorer's table warns you, and he knocks on the door of the locker room to tell, and usually the trainers or some assistant coach answers the door. Well, the guy from opens the door and says, "Tell coach," and he's looking right, and he sees me standing there in my shorts. Tell coach 5 minutes. And I know he went back out to the scorer's table and said, you know, I've walked in the back of some great halftime talks, but I never saw a guy take his clothes off to do it. The one other cue when I was being recruited, and I've never been to North Carolina. I'm from Camden, New Jersey. I'm 18 years old, and I talk like a kid from Camden, New Jersey. We're at the airport. They're sending me home, and we order breakfast, and all of a sudden, boom, the plate hits in front of me, and I said, "That's not my breakfast." And this huge waitress, "What do you mean it's not your breakfast?" She's hovering over me. And I said, I didn't order cream of wheat. And the coaches, they're doubled up. They're laughing so hard. Cream of wheat? Where you from, boy? And now I'm really intimidated. It's a full eclipse over me. And I said, she said, "Boy, them's grits. They're good. You're going to love them." I couldn't wait to get that plate. And I've been eating them ever since. And I'm going to close, and I'm going to open it for questions. But coaching is I liken it to a matador's life. There are no ties. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance and color and all of that. And you go in the arena, and you either win or you get gored. No ties. And you got to keep moving fast, and there's another one coming at the end of the week. But I was interviewing a guy from Madison Square Garden, Butch Van Bredikoff. For those of you who follow basketball have heard his name. He coached the Los Angeles Lakers with Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain. He coached Princeton, New Jersey with Bill Bradley. And he coached the women's professional team, the Memphis Tams. And so he's playing the second game in the Garden. And so I'm talking to him, and we're talking about his team, and I said, "Wait a minute, Butch, you coached pros, amateurs, men, women? Is coaching just coaching?" And he starts to laugh, and he's trying to grab the mic out of my hand. He's a fun guy. And he said, "No, coaching the women. Coaching the women, that's the best." And I knew something was coming, but I wasn't really ready. And I said, "Well, how does that work?" He said, "You coach, you know. Second half, everybody's sweaty. When you're coaching the women, the timeouts smell so much better." Well, I did what you did. I just doubled up, and he just blew me away. And the producers are like, "Ask him another question. We got a minute and a half to go to commercial. Ask him another question." Ask him. And I'm going, I didn't have another question. He blew me away. So after the telecast, I got chewed out. That wasn't very professional. So I'm going to open the floor now to you. Yes.
When did the Buckle Up Bucky start?
When? I'm sorry.
When did the Bucky start?
Buckle Up Bucky.
Oh, okay. Good question. There was a time when there was fights on the court, fights in the stands, and the powers that be decided that the body language of the coaches was inciting all of this physical activity. So they said if we stood up while the clock was running, the referees had to call a technical foul. Yeah, well, you know, who could do that? And so I got a seatbelt. I didn't invent it. Bones McKinney invented it. But I said, that's for me. So with this seatbelt, Hubie Brown was my assistant. And he always had by the way, he's 80, I'm 86, he's 87. He's still doing television and doing a great job. But he's one of those persnickety guys. And he had a folder on each side, offense, defense. He could always tell me what was what. And but anytime I did that, his folders would go out on the floor. And he said, "Damn it, Coach, will you tell me when you're going to do that?" And I said, "Well, if I stopped to tell you when I was going to do that, I wouldn't need this thing." So it didn't last forever, but I had to go to South Carolina to play. And we had beaten them, Frank McGuire was coaching, in Durham, and now we're going back down to Columbia to play. And the game before, Lefty Driesell was playing at South Carolina. And they're still photos of that situation have lasted forever. But a fight broke out, and two of the South Carolina players grabbed Lefty. One had him in a hammerlock, and the other guy was swinging at him. And that was the game before. That was Wednesday. So we rolled in there on Saturday, and they took us to the woodshed. But the post-game, first question, Coach, we were looking for you in a seatbelt. I said, well, did you see Thursday morning's paper? I was more concerned about mobility than I was a technical foul. Yeah. One other one on Lefty, Hubie Brown prompted me on this one. We're going to play them in Washington, and they're loaded, McMillan and all those guys, and he said, you won't do this. You won't do it. Anyway, we did beat them, and I did it. Post-game, I come out into the game, and we won, and the press is very friendly. That's a great win, Coach. I said, yeah, I'm really proud of our kids. I said, it was coming up here, beating Maryland, and I said, but I have to give President Nixon some credit for that. And the writers looking to me. He was the president, and of course, a Duke graduate. And they said, Nixon? Coach, Nixon wasn't here. I said, he wasn't? Well, when we were warming up, they were playing Hail to the Chief, and he had that thing when he come out and he pump his hands. And I said, so I called the kids over, which I didn't do, and said Nixon was here, and we really had to have a great effort. The headline in the Washington paper the next day was, theme song, Foyle's Lefty. He called me. He said, I'm just trying to get fannies in the seats, and you're busting my chops. But he did get fannies in his seats, and he was tough to beat. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, how did you get Dottie? I mean, she's so classy.
Well, I had more. If I got any credit as a coach, I got a credit as a recruiter. I wasn't a brilliant game coach, but I did get a lot of good players, and that was the best one right there. There's a winner.
You didn't answer the question.
That was called.
Good line, all right.
That was called the Camden segue. All right, I'll tell you what. She's playing high school basketball. We're high school sweethearts, and she gets hit in the head with a pass she didn't see, and I hollered out, "That sure's in your head, Dottie." I was in the doghouse for a long time. Next question.
Is Duke going to win it all?
Boy, that's a great question. Remember, they started the season, they beat Gonzaga, and they beat Kentucky. And everybody, oh, where do you go from here? Well, it hasn't been that kind of year. The coming together, they haven't really matured like everybody thought. Do they need a point guard? Probably. But it's, my prediction is Mike Krzyzewski's coaching days on the bench will end in April. And what I'm telling you there is that they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. The national championship is April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Whether they can win it all, I don't know. But I think they'll get to the Final Four. They're really good. They demonstrated it today, coming from it behind. Hard to predict. I'm glad I'm not coaching now. The way these kids can transfer. When I coach and you recruited somebody, you were family for 4 years. If they got a girl pregnant, or their wife, or their mom got cancer, or the father got fired, you were part of the family and the solution. Because what you all don't know is when those kids walk out of that huddle and go out onto the court, they're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. They got another life and they got problems. So, but now that's not true. Now when they come back from vacation, kids say, "You going to start me?" Well, that depends on your performance. Oh, really? I'm going to Vanderbilt, and they're going. It's like, it's very, it's just not like the old days where the kids used to say I was part chaplain and part drill sergeant. So that was pretty good analysis. That's myself. Anyway, next question. It's either my parole officer or my bookie.
Wants to give you the
It's
payoff
down
for
here.
big.
It's called a timeout.
Mike.
Yeah, Spam.
All right. Any other questions? I don't want to keep you all day.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
just got through watching the series on ESPN about the ACC tournament.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about your participation in that?
Sure. I was a freshman at NC State when the ACC began. I have seen every minute since it began. Everett Case was the man who started it here. We could go on and on about him, but it became, because of him, it became the great catalyst to the end of the season. No matter what was going on during the season, you always had that tournament to look forward to. We'll get better for the tournament. And he was really special. And we had heartbreaks. We were his best team. We won the tournament, and then we lost in 4 overtimes in Madison Square Garden. It was our time to win it. But the drama of it and what it became, the cutting down of the nets and everything, he had baskets in every backyard in North Carolina. He came from Indiana, and he was very successful there. He was in the service, coached a team there, and when he came out of the service, he brought a team with him. And these guys were out of the service, they were mature, and they beat Carolina 12 times in a row. They just were so dominant. And so what happened there is the rest of the league said, wait a minute. North Carolina said, Mr. McGuire up in New York, we got a problem down here. And Wake Forest said, and so what happened, in order to catch up or at least be parallel with him, they went out and got coaches and sustained that recruiting. And we really, especially right here in our community with Carolina State and Duke, we're the college basketball capital of the world. I mean, what's been accomplished here, and it's so unique because nowhere else do you have that close relationship. You go to the movies and there's Dean Smith. You go to the airport and there's Norm Sloan, and your kids are involved in the intense rivalry. My kids that come home after a long, hey, the kids at school said their dad said my dad's an idiot. What are they talking about? And it's around you all the time. And part of that makes what Krzyzewski has accomplished. For 42 years, he has walked the streets, his family, for 42 years, and there hasn't been a glitch. Because if you stumble as a head coach at one of those 3 schools, it's on the 6 and 11 news. And that's more pressure than, Ohio State and UCLA. They say their opponents a couple times a year, and that's it. But we're elbow to elbow, and it's pressure. And it's pressure on the family, especially. Coaches are used to it. When I was coaching, whenever we got mail in, there was not complimentary. We always answered it. We said, we received, thank you for your letter. We appreciate your interest in our program. You can be assured it's going to receive all the attention it deserves. Now, if you write me a nasty letter and you get that response, what the hell's that all about? He didn't say, he didn't apologize or nothing. But it's, the intensity is something you live with, and you know it when you get into it. There are 2 problems in coaching. There are guys coaching where there's very little interest. And then there's places where it's intense. The coach at NC State right now is living in intensity because they're not doing well. And that goes back to early Krzyzewski and early Dean Smith. Those 2 guys were not popular choices. They became head coaches at schools with high demands on their basketball. And both institutions, and I can't recall who the athletic director was at University of North Carolina. But Dean Smith struggled. Billy Cunningham talks about they come back from a road trip and they're cutting down. Dean's been hung in effigy. It was not good. And of course at Duke it was even worse. There was a group called the Concerned Blue Devils, and the concern was get rid of this guy. We can't spell it, and he can't recruit talent at this level, and his record at Army wasn't good. It was a miracle that he was hired. And so after 3 years, they had this big meeting, and it was a lynch mob. And he says, well, I'm glad to see you all here. I have an announcement to make. I just extended his contract for 3 more years. So that's the kind of guy you want for a boss. Yeah. Always knew where he stood. Yes? Well, that's enough. That's enough. Thank you. Thanks again for coming. Again, my congratulations to the Tar Heels for that performance that they put on. They're going to play again, I hope, in New York. They play tonight at 9 o'clock. Hold on just a minute. And this will be my attire with a glass of wine. Yes, I'm pulling for them. They're family. Thank you. Good afternoon.